Hey guys, and welcome back for another grooming related video. Today we'll be looking at patchy facial hair and exploring the idea of whether or not using a beard roller is actually an effective method for filling in those patches that we see. I really wanted to do my research on this one before just, announcing to the world that I'm going to be testing this out. And to take this project just that little bit further, I wanted to make this into a 3-part series where I first explore the science and resources that are out there that back this as an idea, which is what this first episode will be about. And then in the following 2 episodes, I wanted to walk the talk and implement all the theory that we learn in today's video over the next 6-month period to see if I can personally get a solid result in increasing my facial hair density with this thing. There is a lot to go over, so buckle in, and if you've wanted to know more about these beard rollers for a while, this series is definitely going to be the thing for you, and I highly recommend you smash that subscribe button before we go any further so you don't miss any of my future updates regarding this. Also, everything that I covered today will be documented over on the Man Buns and Mains blog. During the research phase of this, I ended up writing about 3,000 frickin' words with all of my findings. So if you want to check the facts out for yourself, be my guest because there is so much. So without further ado, let's stop the chit chat and get into the science of how these little puppies work, shall we? So before we dive into whether or not a beard roller can actually help us grow a thicker beard, we've got to understand the different layers of how that idea eventuated in the first place. From a really high level, no detail point of view, it goes a little bit something like this, all right? So dermarollers were initially invented as a treatment for rejuvenating skin. Doctors and scientists then found that it also stimulates hair growth, which then made it an effective method for treating pattern baldness, which then led to the idea that it might be an effective solution for stimulating facial hair growth as well. Now, how does derma rolling, or better known as microneedling or collagen induction therapy, work on the skin? Let's look at that first. On the end of this little instrument here, there's hundreds of tiny little needles that, when rolled over the skin, cause tiny little puncture holes in the surface layer, which then activates the skin's natural healing response. The same thing would happen when you get a massive cut on an oyster or a knife in the kitchen or a burn. The skin naturally goes, ah shit, we're being attacked. So it immediately starts signaling all of its resources like nutrient-rich blood and begins the repairing process. And part of that natural healing process in the skin is to produce more collagen to restore the damage. And collagen is actually what makes our skin look plump and fresh and youthful. And as we age, our body naturally produces less of that. So that's why this sort of therapy has become really popular amongst women who are looking for, anti-aging solutions, because it helps boost that collagen that they no longer naturally create. So it's kind of weird that we have to injure ourselves deliberately to look younger. And then upon, conducting all the research that I've done for this project in particular, this whole concept of inducing collagen production is giving me really high hopes that in addition to potentially growing more facial hair with this thing, I may actually come out of this with a more glowy appearance. And I'm also thinking of using it on my forehead just to see what happens. Because well, why not? If it produces more collagen, I want it everywhere. Give me that. It is also important not to forget that, just as a rule of thumb, our skin is pretty much, it is the housing unit for our hair follicles, right? So if your skin is in shit condition, then it's likely that whatever hair grows out of that skin is also going to be in shit condition, period. So taking good care of it, i.e. with a solid, routine, is also a key component of having a healthy glow, and paying attention to what you're doing in that department is pretty paramount. Speaking of which, this is probably a great time for me to introduce today's video sponsor, Tiege Hanley. They're literally my one-stop shop for keeping my skin in check. I'm currently using their level 3 system, which I'm freaking obsessed with. It's got all my basic skincare needs covered, plus all the bells and whistles, including their daily facial cleanser, their twice-a-week exfoliator scrub that I find super soothing on my skin when it feels a little bit manky and old, particularly on a hangover. I've also got an AM and PM moisturizer to use at morning and night. The AM moisturizer also has SPF 15 in it, so it protects me from the sun whilst I'm out and about. And then to top it off, I have their eye cream to reduce my Prada bags under my eyes, and I have the super serum as well, which leaves my skin feeling nice, firm and fresh every single time. For me, it all just works. My routine literally takes no longer than 5 minutes. I'm always left feeling fresh, like I just said, and I never have to worry about missing a step because the instruction card that comes with all of my shipments keeps me on track. Not that there is that much involved, it's not like a complicated process, but I just find having it there as a guide is a really good way to ensure that I'm doing everything properly. sometimes I do forget what order things go in. So if any of you guys haven't already found a great skincare solution that gets you good results, I'd highly recommend giving Teach a try. There's no lock-in contracts, it's affordable, and more importantly, it actually gets results. So I have no problem in recommending that to you guys whatsoever. If you use the link in my description, you'll get a free gift with your first Teach box, and members inside the US will receive free shipping, and they do also offer international shipping for a small fee, which in the grand scheme of things, when you look at what you're getting, it's worth it in my opinion. So again, that link will be in my description box if you want to get started with Teach today. All right, now let's get back to the science behind beard rollers. So now we've baked the first layer of the cake regarding derma rollers and how they actually work for the skin. The next layer of the cake is where things get really interesting, the hair growth part. During the research phase of putting this video together, I came across this really hefty study by the International Journal of Trichology. And the study that I found experimented with the idea of using a derma roller as an effective treatment for treating male pattern baldness, to which the results were actually pretty astounding. The study consisted of 100 men who had, mild to medium male pattern baldness. From there, the men were divided into two groups. One group was given 5% minoxidil to use twice daily for 12 weeks on the vertex of the head, which is the crown, and the other group was given the 5% minoxidil plus a derma roller to use for the same amount of time. If you're unfamiliar with what minoxidil is and how it helps with pattern baldness, in short, it's a treatment that dilates blood vessels, and when you use it on the scalp, it pretty much helps keep a consistent blood flow to the blood vessels in your scalp, which is why doctors and hair loss specialists give it to their patients to treat hair loss. But going back to the study, after the 12-week period was over, the results came in and 82% of the men in the minoxidil derma roller group had seen significant improvement in hair growth on the vertex. And then over in the minoxidil only group, only 4.5% of that group reported a mild improvement. Coincidence? I think not. What's also important to note in this study as well is that some of the men that were put in the minoxidil derma roller group, they had actually previously tried minoxidil alone and gotten no results. And the thing with minoxidil is it has been proven to work, but it can actually take upwards of 6 months for a man to see any improvement whatsoever. So the fact that some of these men had already tried minoxidil previously with no results and saw a significant difference in just 12 weeks after implementing the derma roller, it's pretty groundbreaking actually. And just after reading that scientific study alone, I'm 100% sold that microneedling definitely has an impact when it comes to growing more hair. And then the study concludes to say that when the skin activates that natural healing process that we were talking about earlier, when the roller creates those micro injury sites, the hair growth cycle is also activated simultaneously, which makes sense as to why the results came out the way that they did in the study, because the derma roller is forcing this activity to occur below the surface of the skin. And after layering all this information together on the pretty cake that we're baking, it starts becoming more and more promising that scientifically, this thing here might actually be able to help with filling in beard patches if it's already able to help, restore the hair on top of someone's head. But we're not done yet. The next layer of the cake is where things get even more interesting. There's still a few things that we've got to question before, we're really sold on whether this being a good idea for our beards and spending money on it is actually a good idea, okay? So the next layer to the cake, the icing if you like, the best bit, is pretty much asking the question, can the scientific evidence behind the derma roller working for promoting hair growth on the scalp be translated to promoting growth on the face? Theoretically, it makes perfect sense. If this hair does it, why would this hair not do it, right? Well, the thing I found questionable and conflicting about this is that the sole reason that we grow facial hair in the first place is actually due to hormonal changes in our body when we go through puberty. And it's the hormones that are causing those vellus hairs to transition to terminal hairs, or pubes. Don't you worry, I've linked a great medical reviewed article from hairguard.com on the difference between vellus and terminal hairs in the description, and it explains more about the factors involved when it comes to these hairs transitioning from one to the other. But in a nutshell, it states that facial hair growth is primarily controlled by dihydrotestosterone, or DHT for short, which then would logically suggest that we would actually need a healthy supply, if not more, of the DHT hormone if we were to pull off this whole beard growth operation successfully. There's obviously more factors than just a single hormone when it comes to growing a beard, which I am going to get into in a sec, but at this point in my research, there was a few conflicting bits of information I found regarding this whole concept around DHT, and here's why. If we rewind the clock back a little bit and go back to the topic of male pattern baldness, if you dive into the scientific studies that I've listed of that issue, you'll find that they all say that high sensitivity and excessive levels of DHT is actually the root cause of why male pattern baldness occurs in the first place. Yet the dermaroller study has proven that microneedling helps in the process of reversing male pattern baldness. Yet we absolutely need DHT, if not more of it, to grow decent facial hair. Like, what the fuck? So while I was investigating all of these factors behind growing facial hair, I actually had to go back and review all of this data next to each other to really try and make sense of like what all this information really meant. Like, because my head was spinning by that point and I was like, ah man, I don't even know who to believe anymore, who's telling the truth. Anyway, after I went back through everything again, the conclusion I came to was this. Yes, DHT does in fact play a key role in the degeneration of the hair in our scalp causing male pattern baldness, as well as signaling the vellus hair on our face to transition to terminal hair, causing our facial hair to grow. True and correct on both accounts. But the DHT hormone is only one common component of both scenarios, and it doesn't actually play the same role in each of them. Whereas the dermaroller, on the other hand, does play the same role in both scenarios. Let me break this down. In male pattern baldness, DHT plays the role of blocking the follicle from receiving the nutrients that the hair needs in order to grow. And that component of the issue is actually managed through other medications like finasteride, which is shown to lower DHT levels in the body. And the key role of the dermaroller is actually in stimulating the hair growth cycle of the hair. But then when we look at beards, DHT is a necessity for the growth, so there's actually no need to block it in that case. So in both scenarios, DHT plays a different role in each outcome, but the dermaroller, on the other hand, plays the same role, which after reading that study from the International Journal of Trichology, the role that the dermaroller plays is actually in stimulating the growth cycle of the hair, which is separate from DHT altogether. So after reviewing that, it made it clear to me that when dealing with either of these issues, you really need to take into account and understand all of the components involved with each process before making any hard and fast decisions about what you're actually going to do to, combat it. And seeing as we're only really concerned about beard growth in this video, let's cross out all of the other components involved with treating male pattern baldness and just stick with what we know about the dermaroller in the fact that it stimulates the hair growth cycle and DHT is still a key component of what we need to promote our facial hair, okay? So what else plays a role in growing a beard? I did find another medically reviewed article from healthline.com stating that on top of hormones like DHT, our general health and well-being can actually play a massive role in growing facial hair too. The article stated that by doing your best to reduce stress, eat a balanced diet, get enough rest, and take good care of your skin, they're all things that can really pay off when it comes to maximizing your beard potential. Which all makes complete and utter sense as well if you think about it, because stress creates more cortisol in the body, and then cortisol reduces testosterone. The less testosterone, the less DHT. We also get our energy and nutrients from our food, which means if we want to have adequate hormone production, that's certainly got to play a role in keeping those hormone levels consistent. Rest helps our body utilize the things that we're putting into it efficiently, which would also support the previous points. And like we discussed before, our skin is the housing unit for the hair follicle to grow in. So the better condition it's in, the better environment the hair will have to grow. The article then did go on to say that our genetics are also largely responsible for how much facial hair we can grow, which I mean also makes a great deal of sense too. If your genetic makeup doesn't allow for a fully fledged beard, it's not that likely that you're gonna magically wake up like Greg Basinski one day, okay? Don't blame me, blame science. A good way to get an idea of what facial hair genetics you've got to look forward to obviously would be to look at your dad or your granddad. It might also help to ask them, what kind of facial hair changes they experienced in their life and when those changes occurred, because it's likely you'll experience something similar. It is also important to note that if the outlook from what you see in your male relatives doesn't look too bright in terms of being able to grow a lot of facial hair, it is possible that they themselves aren't doing everything in their power to try and maximize their beard potential, i.e. they might not be using a dermaroller or taking immaculate care of themselves or have great hormone production at all. Therefore, their genetic limits aren't being pushed to their potential, so the possibility for you to make some sort of beard gains might still be there if you're the first one to try it. Essentially, you won't know unless you have a go at putting all of this theory into practice. So yeah. So after putting all of this information side by side along with the effects of the dermaroller, the picture I'm starting to get with this is if you really want to try enhancing your beard gain by using a dermaroller, a few other lifestyle components must also be in alignment for you to expect a good result. One, healthy hormone production to encourage the transition of vellus hairs to terminal hairs, a balanced lifestyle and diet that allows for those hormones to thrive and be delivered to the area, and 3, genetic evidence that you could potentially grow more facial hair in the future. If you definitely know that you can get all of those things in alignment, my personal opinion after doing all of this research would be, yeah, okay, sure, give it a go. You've not really got anything to lose, because with all of those things ticked, along with the dermaroller, you've got a pretty high chance of seeing some result after looking at the facts. And for me personally, prior to making this video, I've already assessed my lifestyle and genetics, and after my self-assessment, I am indeed a good candidate for trying this, which is exactly why I decided to go through with the experiment, because yeah, I do grow relatively okay facial hair. I mean, I do have my patchiness, but when I look at my dad, he's got a very, very full face of hair. So if that's my genetic limit, I'm gonna try and reach it. I'm gonna try and get there early. I don't wanna wait until I'm 40, you know? I'm actually so pumped to document this now, and I hope you guys are just as keen to join me on the journey as well, because, you know, if we do get beard gains with this, I am gonna be pushing the shit out of derma rolling. So from here, what we're gonna do is we're gonna jump off this setting and we're gonna head to my bathroom where I'm gonna do my first derma roller session. There is a few important things that we need to know when it comes to, doing this safely at home. So I'm gonna cover all of that, get it done, and then we'll see how we go over the next 3 months, because that's when I'll be doing my next check-in, okay? So I'll see you in the bathroom. Well, good morning, everybody. So it is the morning after I actually did my first dermaroller session. I had a few things going on last night where I was like, I can't do this and explain what's going on. So I thought I would do the session and get a little bit of B-roll to, illustrate what needs to go on. And then I thought I would wait until this morning to elaborate on that. So yeah, what I did was I ended up doing the session on my beard and also on my forehead. You can see my forehead's still a little bit red, and the feeling that I kind of have is my face feels almost as if it was sunburn. It's just where it's like a very faint sting. I'd say that's got to do with the dermaroller creating the micro injuries, and now my skin is beginning the healing process. But nonetheless, it didn't turn out too bad. I was quite red after it, both on my beard and on my forehead. But yeah, overall pretty simple and easy. So in this part of the video, I just wanted to explain just a few important things about when you're doing derma rolling. So first of all, needle length is a really important thing to take into account. With the derma roller study that we saw from the International Journal of Dermatology, the derma rollers that they used in that study were 1.5 millimeters in length. And the reason that they're that long for using it on something like the scalp is because the skin on our scalp is a lot deeper than the skin on our face. And I did see in the research phase as well a really good video from the hair loss show with 2 doctors here from Australia. I can't remember their exact names right now. They elaborated that the effectiveness of derma rolling actually happens when the needles can reach the bulge area of the skin. So that's around where the hair follicle kind of sits and where the hair growth cycle occurs. So in the scalp, 1.5 millimeters is great for that. But when we're using derma rollers on skin that is thinner, i.e. our face or our beards, something shorter is far more practical for that kind of thing. And most beard rollers that are on the market, they'll be about 0.25 millimeters to 0.5 millimeters. The one that I have is 0.5 millimeters. Yeah, I don't feel like my skin's too damaged. Like I was just saying before, it just feels like very slight sunburn. And I'm guessing the more I do it, the more used to it my skin will get. The other thing to cover is frequency. So how often should you be doing this? Well, it's recommended anywhere from 2 to 3 times per week. I'm gonna start off slow because I've never done this type of thing before. I'm just gonna start by doing it twice a week. I'm gonna go on Mondays and Fridays. Yesterday was a Friday, so we've begun the process, and then on Monday, I'll do my second session, and then the following Friday, I'll do it again. And the reason you shouldn't be doing it daily or anything, and you should be leaving a gap in between each session, is because like we've discussed, derma rolling is causing tiny injuries. So just like when you're at the gym and you tear the muscle, you need to give it a couple of days to repair and then work it again so it gets stronger and stronger. And that's kind of the same idea with this. So yeah, spacing it out properly is good.
The other thing to take into account too is obviously hygiene. So these are little needles that are penetrating the skin. They're going underneath the surface layer of the skin, and it's very, very important that your skin and the dermaroller are clean before you attempt this. So when it comes to cleaning, using something like isopropyl, I think that's how you say it. Isopropyl, that's it. Isopropyl alcohol is a really good solution for cleaning your dermaroller. What you want to do before use is dip your dermaroller into, a pot of isopropyl alcohol for about, 60 to 90 seconds. And then after that, I just took it out, put it upside down, let it dry off a little bit. And whilst that was happening, then I cleaned my face. Cleaning your face thoroughly is a good idea too, because if you've got any dirt and gunk already sitting on the surface of the skin, when you puncture it, you could risk pushing that gunk into the skin, which can cause all sorts of yucky infections and crap like that. Then when it comes to actually rolling it on your beard, it's recommended that anywhere from 10 to 20 rolls on the areas that you're trying to treat is best. Now, again, because this was my first time doing this, I just went with 10 rolls in each section. And you also have to take into account the direction that you're rolling in. So for example, if we're looking at this side of my face here, we've got vertical, diagonal, and horizontal rolling that we need to do. And that's 10 rolls on each area you're trying to treat. So if I'm going vertical and I do my 10 rolls here, I then need to move along and do 10 rolls here. And then move along and do another 10 rolls here. If I'm doing diagonal, I'll do 10 rolls this way, then move up, 10 rolls this way. And then when I'm going horizontal, I want to go 10 rolls, 10 rolls, 10 rolls. That's how we want to make it work. And afterwards, it is normal for your skin to feel a little bit agitated because you've just pretty much injured it. A little bit of redness is known to be normal. Yeah, it's pretty much as simple as that. And then after you finish your session as well, it is really important to sterilize the dermaroller again. So popping it back into isopropyl alcohol is a good idea too. This time for a little bit longer, 3 to 5 minutes should be enough to kill all of the germs on the dermaroller. And then after you finish with that, storing it back in your case so it's very clean and sterile and ready for the next use. And by sterilizing it again before you use it, that way you're making sure all bacteria is definitely dead and gone before you're putting it into your skin. You want to kind of treat it like a toothbrush. You don't want it going into all of these different dirty places from bag to bag to place to place. It's just going to pick up more bacteria. Keeping it clean is probably the most important thing if you're going to go through with this. So yeah, the last thing I wanted to touch on as well is aftercare. Everything I've read pretty much indicates using like a beard serum or something soothing on the skin is best practice to help soothe the skin afterwards. I did also read that you shouldn't clean your skin again for a minimum of 4 hours after doing derma rolling, okay? So once you've done your whole face, if that's what you're gonna do with this thing, like I am, then you should wait about 4 hours and then you can clean your face again and off you go. During the next 3 months, I will be, documenting here and there, just having little sessions, maybe giving a look at my progress. That was the other thing I wanted to mention. It is also important to make sure you do get some sort of before and afters, all right? There's no point in going through with something like this if you're not gonna measure results. So I did get a little pan of what it currently looks like now. And then as the 6 months unfolds, I'm gonna compare the footage that I got last night with the footage that I get in 6 months' time. And I'm hoping that the density is gonna pick up in my face. But again, we won't know until we get there. So yeah, the next check-in that I'll be dropping should be around December. When I asked Google what date it would be in 3 months, she said the 27th of December. Now that is around Christmas time. I don't know how on the ball I'm going to be with content making at that time. So my first check-in might go live sometime in January, which will at least be over 3 months, and we'll be able to see if anything's happened. And obviously we'll continue on with the journey. That's pretty much in a nutshell my first session. Feeling good about it. It wasn't too tricky. It didn't take too long. And I'm looking forward to doing that check-in. All right. Now we're going to flick back to my other setting and I'll wrap up this video. Thanks for watching.
Righty-ho, so that is our first session done. Wow, this was a really long video. I feel like I've been working on this for a lot longer than what I was sitting here presenting, because the research phase, it just takes so long to really get your head around stuff. So I'm glad we did it though. I'm glad I'm now kicking off this journey. I can't wait to check in another 3 months to pick up where we left off from this. And yeah, I hope you want to come in for the ride. Don't forget to smash the thumbs up button if you liked what you saw here today. And don't forget to hit the subscribe button to keep up to date with me to see if we can fill in my beard patches. They're really not too bad, but if I can get more, I will. Why not? Why not? All right, see you guys.